Where are we going to get them? You go, okay, where are we going to get them? Well, remember, there's 4 categories of where to get patients. The first category is where the 8% go. And remember, there's an inverse, it's inversely proportional, the amount of skill and money it takes versus effectiveness. The more skill you have, the less money it takes, and the more effective you are at getting new patients. That's called educational sales. The less knowledge and skill you have, especially skill, the less knowledge and skill you have, it's going to cost you more money and time to get new patients, and they're not going to be as good. That's how it works. And so the goal, obviously, is to increase your skill so it costs less money. You can control it. Remember, when you do educational sales, you can control the number of new patients you get. You cannot with advertising. That's why you never should be dependent on advertising. That's when you're in real trouble. That's when things can happen bad fast. Okay. So we've got you go to the first pool and you go, okay, well, where do the 8% of the patients go? And you go, okay, what can I expect there? How much time and money does it take to do it versus how many new patients I'm going to get? Well, remember, we're in the 8% category to start with, so we're not talking about a lot to start with. And it's limited by your geographic radius of draw and the number of competitors you have. So remember, the less you know about educational sales, the more dependent you are on the 8%. And now the number of chiropractors in your same area, competitive area, matter. Because now they're being divided by that number. Now, when you know educational sales, that does not matter. The number of chiropractors doesn't matter at all, because remember, most of the new patients, the potential new patients for chiropractors, are not the 8%. Out of the 92%, it's 75% of those people have problems, back pain, neck pain, headaches, arthritis, etc. So the real business, the real vast opportunity in chiropractic is not the 8%. Okay, that's now when you know that and you know how to get patients from that, it doesn't matter how many competitors you have, because they're not tapping into that market at all. That market is wide open and it creates way more business than you can physically handle anyway. Okay, so let's get back to the categories. So you go, okay, let's go into the 4 categories. Okay, first category is where the 8% go. Well, it's always circle of influence first. So that's a marketing campaign to your existing and past patients. That's talking to your past patients. You know, one of the easiest way to do that is a weekly communication, sending an email weekly, you know, and remember, it should always be problem, solution, offer. Problem, pleasure, logic, fear, offer. Pleasure, logic, fear, offer. And we go into detail on that, but that's number 1. Number 2 is the insurance. They'll Google their insurance company. Well, are you there? So are you talking to your past patients? Well, you're 0 for 1. Are you marketing with the insurance? You're 0 for 2. Do you have a system in place for Google for business and reviews? If not, you're 0 for 3. And remember, as you go down the chart, the number of new patients are decreasing. This is also the hierarchy of where they go first, second, and third when they're looking for a chiropractor. And then number 4 is their condition. They'll Google their condition. So if you don't have videos with conditions, you're 0 for 4. And then your sign. So if you don't have a proactive sign, you're 0 for 5. So you're just missed out on where the 8% are going. And that's most chiropractors. Most chiropractors aren't even paying attention to where people naturally are going. Now, I always say to participate in those, not because it's abundant, but when you look at the amount of money and labor versus the potential return, you go, well, okay, how much labor and time and money does it cost to regularly communicate at least once a week to your existing patient base to stimulate those referrals? Well, it's very little. I mean, it's very, very, very little. So yeah, I'm going, and it's the very first place all patients go to first, family members and friends. A trusted source is always the first place everybody goes when they want to buy a product or service. So I'm going, yeah, it doesn't cost, emails don't cost anything. Once you know the template of the formula, that's nothing. Even if it was just written, or if you just shot a 10-second or a 20-second webcam video with very simple things and sent it out, so that's real easy. And that's the first place they go. And they have a circle of influence of 7. So it's not just them, because remember, they have a circle of influence of 7, and 2% of them are in car accidents every year. So I'm like, how much does that cost and how much time? I'm like, yeah, if it's me, I'm doing that. I'm talking to my past patients, especially now. When I talked to my past patients, we had a paper newsletter. This was in the 90s before the internet. It cost me $400. So we'd send that thing out like quarterly, something like that. We didn't even send it out monthly. That was $400. Now you can talk to them every day if you want. And you have the best communication. You have a video. So, it's unbelievable. So number 2 is the insurance videos. They work better in urban areas versus rural. But if you're not there, you're not going to be there at all. Are you going to get a lot of patients for that? No. Will you pick up one every now and then? Yeah. How much money does it cost? Well, nothing. How much time does it take? Well, it takes a lot of time initially. But after they're done, it doesn't take any time. Once it's on the internet, they're done. You make them, you SEO them, they're done. So it could take a little more labor in the beginning, but they're there for 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 10, 20 years. So is it worth it because of that? Yeah. If it was only good for a month or two, it wouldn't be worth it. But since they're going to be up for 20 years, I'm like, yeah, they're worth doing. Then you go to Google for Business. And you want that to be a proactive system. I mean, you can automate it now. Now they have, Wave Review, and, there's different systems you can buy into that'll text the patient, saying, hey, can you give us a review and blah, blah, blah. And, if it's not a 4 or 5-star review, they don't post it and they send it to you, that kind of thing. And all that's good. I would do that. Depending on the cost, I would give that serious consideration. But I would still have the internal system, because there's nothing like an organic review from your office. And we cover how to do that. We go into how all that works. It has to be from their own IP address, from their smartphone. It can't be from, them tying into your open Wi-Fi. And then we get it while they're on therapy, and we say exactly what to say to get it. So we have a captive audience, see? So we go into the exact steps. Who's going to do it? In other words, there's a staff member that's responsible for it, because these are called systems. Remember, you have to have systems for it to be consistent. You don't have a system, it's not going to be consistent. So you have to have a person designated to do it. They got to be trained to do it. They got to be told when to do it, how to do it, and they got to keep statistics. Then I look at those statistics every week at the staff meeting. Okay, how'd the reviews go this week? And I'll give a little bonus for the people that, I may give like $5 per review, something like that. And I'm going to look at them and go, how many reviews did we get this week? That's worth doing. Google for Business, that's worth doing. Paying attention to that, that's worth doing. More and more. Remember, trust and reviews, people pay a lot more attention to that. I mean, I do that myself. I'll go to a product and I'll just look at the reviews. And some of the reviews are stupid. If I'm looking at hotels or something, somebody will give a negative review because the pillow was too hard. I'm like, well, that's stupid. I'm not going to pay attention to that. But if another person goes, oh man, there were bed bugs here, I'm out of there. I want nothing to do with bed bugs. See? Okay. So you've got to make that decision. And then you go to the condition videos. And of course, we have the templates for that. And even if you don't do the templates, because remember, there's 14 emotional triggers. The more that you have in, your advertising, the more effective it is. But as a bare minimum, you could just have your introduction, pleasure, logic, fear, and call now, and that's it. Not even an offer or a guarantee. I mean, just that. I'm doing that with guys now just to get started. Just go, hey, just say how you help back pain, introduce yourself, give 3 bullet points of authority, why authority bullet points, you're board certified, blah, blah, blah. And you help this particular problem, back pain or whatever it is, neck pain, whatever. And give us we're located here in this, this community. Give us a call if we can help you. 555. Yeah. I mean, how hard is that? Even if we start with something unbelievable, simple as that, that's way better than not being in that space for that key word. So that's one. And then the sign, we do a proactive sign. Okay. So you've got to decide, are you going to do it or not? Because you have limited time. Now, the good news about most of those, especially the insurance videos or the condition videos, once you do them, you're done. You just pay attention to them, just knock them out, get them done. They're over. They're on the freaking internet they're on the internet until you're dead, until after you die. Just get them done. And this is when I say, sometimes you just need to take time out of your lunch instead of taking your chiropractic 2-hour lunch. Do lunch in 30 minutes and take an hour and a half and shoot 5, 6, 7, or 8 videos and get it over with. Okay. So that's a consideration. You got to look at that. If it were me, and I'll just share with you what I do and what I did and what works. Okay. And so we want to look at all these and then you have to look at yourself and go, well, maybe I'm not that type of person yet. I mean, there's people that I'm going to recommend that they don't ask for a referral at all, that they don't start that way because it's not natural for them. And so you've got to learn how to stair step it. And so I'll say the only thing we're going to do first is we're just going to get somebody in the admit phase. We're not going into consequences. We're not going into personalization. We're not going into the offer. We're not going into time or money. We're not going to, and you're not allowed to book anybody. See, this is being highly aware of how to train and how to overcome personal issues. That's what this is. And when you're the CEO, you have to be highly aware of this. Some people will have natural ability to do it. Some won't. And by the way, one of the 2 most important employees you're going to have are the 2 anchors. Your business is going to be based on your 2 anchors, that front desk person and the back person, specifically not for doing therapy, because you can have anybody doing therapy. You can have a passive phlegmatic doing therapy, no problem. Here's what you can't have. You cannot have a high sanguine, high passive phlegmatic who's going to be help you and being the primary person with marketing. And your primary marketing person is your therapy person. Now, everybody learns everything. Front desk learns all the marketing. Everybody learns that. Remember, every system in your office should be cross-trained. Your back person should know how to do billing. Everybody knows how to answer the phone. Everybody's cross-trained in everything. Chiropractic office is not difficult. I think chiropractors make it difficult. I could teach an 8th grader how to run a chiropractic office. It is not difficult. There's nothing you have to know outside to run a chiropractic business, the front desk or the back, nothing. If anything, probably the basics of a computer now, and that's it. You have to know how to the basics of a computer now, and that's it. All of those components of running an office easily can be trained into a responsible individual. Okay, so you go, okay, so what marketing did I do when it was just me and my front and I'm building my practice and I got 1 employee? What marketing? Well, I had to do it. We had to do it. There you go. And you need to know it anyway, because you're going to be training on this. So you've got to know how to do it anyway. So getting back to the categories. So you got to pick those categories and you got to look at, and this is where it's going to take real introspection, because everybody thinks they can do everything, and that is not the case. There are some people that will have a hell of a time asking for a referral because they got low confrontation, period. Now, I'm going to say this. You're the doctor, and you better understand where you're at with confrontation and conviction, number one. And then, but when it comes to employees and you're hiring the front desk or you better be damn good at understanding personality profiles, because that the main anchor marketing person, it's the therapist in the back, because they're around all the patients all the time. They got time to get referrals and this and that. That's the main anchor for marketing. Well, you better have made a good decision on that person. That person better not be a primary, phlegmatic, or sanguine. Your whole marketing system is screwed, because they will not have the natural ability to do it. Because remember, good marketing, especially educational sales, has to do with confrontation. That's what it has to do with, confrontation. And high phlegmatics and high sanguines, they want nothing to do with confrontation. So you got to be aware, and maybe you're like that. Maybe you're a low confrontation doctor. Well, that's going to be a problem. That means you're going to either modify how you do things, or you're going to have to alter your marketing schedule and maybe have to spend more time and money because you don't have the confrontation, or you're not willing to increase your confrontation. And you can do that. I mean, people, it's hard to believe, but I was a very shy, passive kid in high school. People, when I say that, people go nuts. You're like, yeah, right. No, I put a shitload of work on myself. I worked on myself infinitely. I still do today. You ought to see my damn library. I got a big ass fucking library. I worked on myself so I wasn't this shy, ratty ass little kid. So you got to decide for yourself if you're that type of person. Do I want to work on myself to be better? Do I want to work on myself that I can give a new patient orientation, or am I too damn scared? And I'm not even willing to take little baby steps to get there. See, this is all part of being a CEO. Are you going to recognize this and act on it or not? Are you just going to be oblivious and ignorant to everything and just be inhibited by everything? Well, you're not going to have very much of a quality of life if that's the case. So there's the first 5. And then you go to the, let's go to the internet category. Another category is what's the basic for the internet? Well, we said you should at least do the Google pay-per-click, because that's a new patient. That's a new patient. And that you want an agency. Now we're going to cover how to do that. I'm going to go step by step, and we'll walk through how to do it, and things you definitely want to do and things you definitely don't want to do. Like any marketing, things that you do can sometimes significantly increase the effectiveness of it. That's like an opt-in. An opt-in is huge when it comes to pay-per-click. And I say it all the time. I say, if you're not going to do an opt-in, don't even waste your money, because that's where it's in the follow-up, and the follow-up is in the opt-in. So don't even do it if you're not even, if it's just going to be an ad, and then they don't participate, they walk away, and then there's no, you can't follow up with them. That's the worst. So knowing this becomes very important, especially with negative keywords. You're like, what keywords? But also, you got to be aware there's 3 different types of keywords, that you only want these words, and you want what's called negative keywords, because you're getting charged every time somebody clicks on it. Well, the more broad your keywords are, you're going to have people clicking on stuff that are not true patients. So we cover that. We go, you want this real tight and very limited. So it gives a high probability of a new patient when it's clicked on. And you don't want to use, gross general words. That's when it'll cost you a lot of money, and it's not very. Those 2 things alone are killers. You don't know the keyword scenario, you don't do the follow-up, it's worthless. But when you do know the keyword, you know, and you know the title, you know the basics of advertising. In other words, you got a primary gateway, you got pleasure, logic, fear, and, you know, have some authority statements or even some testimonials or even a guarantee with an offer. And it's repetitive, how it's sequenced out. That's the best it gets right there. See? So that marketing is the absolute highest effective. And that's gold. Now you want to pay, you know, you want to bid on that keyword to get that keyword because you're right up top there. And those are new patients when it's location. And of course, the word we're talking about is chiropractor location. Like here in Fort Lauderdale, it'd be chiropractor Fort Lauderdale or chiropractors Fort Lauderdale. See, that's a major, that's a new patient that's Googling that. So anyway, let's leave that. And then we tie that to what's called the banners. You've seen the banners before. That's like when you go to a site and then you leave it, like you go to a site and you're looking for shoes, and then you go to a totally different site and there's an advertisement for the very shoes you were looking at on a different website. Those are called banner ads. Those are relatively inexpensive and cheap, and they're good follow-up. In other words, you know, they're seeing you again and again. That's a type of follow-up without capturing their information. So it's reminder. So that's worth it to do the Google pay-per-click, tighten it down. Now, I will tell you, if you, and we'll cover this, if you're not going to do the educational sales, because remember, some people aren't comfortable with it, and then some people aren't willing to increase their skill level. Well, if you want new patients now you're dependent on advertising. Now you got to buy your patients. What that means is you got to pay a lot more close attention to what's more effective and least effective. Okay. So one of the things about the internet that we do is when you Google chiropractor location, there's 3 categories of the internet. There's pay-per-click at the top, Google for Business. Then there's Google for Business. That's with the maps. And then under that is the organic section. Now we teach how to do all 3. So we want, in other words, when somebody puts in those keywords, chiropractor Fort Lauderdale, we want your link to be right there in Google pay-per-click. Then we want your link to be in Google for Business. And then we want your link to be right up top for the organic section. That's the goal that we do when it comes to the internet. That's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover in detail how to do all that, how to apply it all. How does it all work? Because all 3 of those are different systems. The organic part at the bottom, you can easily do that. I show you how to do that. I give you templates. That's easy. Google for Business, we go into how to do that. That's easy. Pay-per-click, that you might want to sublet that out, but you're not going to have to if you do some of these things like we're going to cover. Then you can do it like what I say, and then it's real easy. Okay, as long as you get these main points. Okay, so that's the internet section. So if you're not doing that, you want to give that Google pay-per-click and the banner ad serious consideration. That's the only advertising that you definitely should be doing. And you want to own that keyword. So you want to bid up to where you actually own that word. So you might be paying $20, $40, $50. It might go to $75 a click, whatever. And of course, you always watch the numbers. How much are you spending versus the patients you're getting? And you check the return on investment. That's how it works. The great news about pay-per-click is you don't have to pay if nobody clicks on it. You know, back in the day when I advertised in the local newspaper, I paid no matter what. I paid the $400 and it was gone. It was no follow-up. There's no opt-in, and it was gone. So there's a hell of a lot better opportunities with marketing nowadays. So that's something you definitely want to consider and do. And then, so those are 2 categories. Then you go to the best category, the educational sales category. And of course, that always starts with the circle of influence. So then you go to, okay, spout, who's the first What's the corridor? Who's the first new patient you should always go after? The spouse. The people living, your patients, spouse and kids, the people who are living under their roof. That's typically the spouse, significant other, or kids. Now, if there's a mother or mother-in-law living under the same roof, boom, they just moved up the ladder in probability of getting a new patient. But that's the first level. In other words, you don't do this stuff randomly. There's organization and order. It's the science of marketing. It's called the S-curve of economics. So you need to, what's the point that I'm getting at right now? You've got to pick what systems you're going to do. And what you're going to do is going to depend on you. It's going to depend on you. And then some of it you may not be able to do just because, you know, the type of personality you have. And then you have to go, well, am I willing to baby step this? Am I willing to be superior? Or am I just okay with staying at my level of knowledge and skill for those same results? See, these are questions you have to ask yourself, because not everybody can do this. Okay. Everybody can do it if they're willing to take the baby steps and go through the typical training program. That is true. Everybody can do it. I mean, I came from nothing, a shy, introverted kid in high school, to talking to thousands of people and speaking to colleges. That was not by accident, and it didn't come, you know, it come from a hell of a lot of work is what, I took a lot of baby steps. I was willing to, though. I did not inhibit the hell out of myself. There you go. So this is when it takes real introspection. This is when you got to look at yourself in the mirror. That's what this is about. And go, well, who am I really? Where is my knowledge base and skill at this point in time relative to what I'm trying to accomplish? And that's not me naturally, but am I willing to take the steps to get to that naturally? See? That's the question you got to ask yourself. Okay. So we go into the educational sales components. So we go circle of influence. So that's the spouse. Now remember, educational sales works the best because it helps establish need relative to the obstacles. And we already talked about the importance of need. That's 80% of all marketing. It's not the offer. So you got to learn how to do that and be aware of all this. And then, but even if you don't, even if you go, you know what, I'm not going to do educational sales, it's still better to do advertising. You're still better off handing that person a flyer with a discount for their spouse than doing nothing at all. You'll still get a periodic patient from that without even doing any educational sales. The worst thing you could do is nothing. With these systems, the worst thing you could do is nothing. And then sometimes you can graduate. And a lot of times I'll do that with clients. I go, let's just start with handing flyers out. That's it. That's it. Let's just get comfortable, put a system in place. It's a very specific person. It's a very specific time. It's trained how to do it, and it's quantified. And we look at that stat every week. We go, okay, how many flyers did we hand out to spouses this week? How many of them came in? We're going to, in other words, it gets documented. It gets tracked. That's a major category of staff meetings, marketing. Major. Okay. So then from the spouse, there's the kid, if you like doing the kids' day. And if you want to shoot a practice up fast, do kids' day. My God, you want to increase your practice 20% in 90 days from kids alone? Boom. If you don't want to do that, don't. Then the next one is the next circle of influence we're going after is after spouse, kid, is mother, father. That's real high probability new patients. Mother, because they're typically over 40 or 50 years old. They have a problem, a chiropractic problem, old injury, back pain, neck pain, arthritis, something. and we have circle of influence and trust. That's a high probability target market. So now where do we get those? Well, we do the monthly in-office promotions. When we do the monthly in-office promotions, what's that about? It's only about going after the high probability patients with your existing patient base. That's what it's about. We just call it something different. It's doing that every month. We just call it something different. So we got Mother's Day coming up. That's a big one because of the high emotional appeal. We have a high probability problem. They pay way more attention to their health, and it's highly emotional. Mother's Day is a huge opportunity for new patients just because of what I said. That's coming up right now. Mother's Day is coming up. What's the week? It's the week after the second week, roughly in May, roughly. Maybe the third, I got to check. That's coming up. That's a targeted program. That's the monthly in-office promotion for that month. And you go, okay, well, what's the basics of a monthly in-office promotion? Well, again, it's a damn system. Who does it? When do they do it? How do they do it? Are they trained to do it? And then you keep stats on it. And then when you do it, are you going to do publicity? Are you going to do advertising? Just hand them a flyer? Are you actually going to engage them and establish need and then minimize the obstacles and do a third-party book? See, that's what you're dealing with. This is your future. This is you controlling your future. So you have to say to yourself, you've got to actually write this down. You got to decide what you're going to do to get these patients. And then you apply this. It's kind of amazing when you actually make a decision, what you want, and you actually put systems in place to do it. Even though you're not that good, it's kind of amazing how you start getting new patients. It's kind of amazing how that works, as opposed to having no systems, not paying any attention to any marketing, and just going through your day. It's amazing the difference it makes. Now, what's great about it, now again, this is a big if, you are already good at patient retention. You're good at patient retention, things happen fast. Because now you get these patients and you dump them into your patient retention system, now it explodes. Now you do not need a whole lot of new patients from what you're getting to max out your exchange of time for money. And remember, you can only see 20, no more than 25 new patients when you got a 25 patient retention and a 70% prepay. That's it. You've maxed out. That's it. So this is what you got to look at. You go, okay, which strategies are we going to use first, second, and third? And that's what we're going to train on. Okay. And then you go, okay, that's the monthly in-office promotion. And then you go, there's the referral, what's called the active referral. Again, it's a system. After every re-report, remember there's the pre-re-report, there's our re-exam, pre-re-exam notice, there's the re-exam, and then there's the re-report. So the re-exam's over 3 separate visits. After the re-report, you modify their schedule, or maybe you go to 3 times a week to twice a week or whatever, and you may change your therapies depending on what phase of healing they're in, right? That's the re-report. Okay, you're done. All that's done. Boom, patient set. They know the frequency, they know the therapy, boom. And they get scheduled for that for the next 12 visits at the front to the next re-exam. Well, before they leave the room, this is when you ask for the referral. Now, remember, if you don't want to do educational sales or whatever, what's the worst thing you could do? Probably what you're doing right now. Nothing. That's the worst thing you could do. Nothing. Now, why do we do it at the re-report? Because they're almost always getting better. That's when they're most likely to refer, when they notice they're getting better. And in the first 30 days is when you have the highest probability of getting a referral. So let me ask you, how many contacts are you doing in the first 30 days to get a circle of influence referral? Most doctors at 0. They're not doing anything. Well, we're going to do 5. So when a patient comes in, the first system they're going to get is day 5, the spouse. The second is they're going to get the monthly kit offer, the scoliosis check with the kids. That's if you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But that's two. The next one is the new patient orientation, and that's a gold mine. But that takes knowledge and skill, see? So remember this hierarchy. Knowledge and skill decrease the amount of money and they increase the effectiveness. Less knowledge and skill, you now need to put money. Now you need to spend money for new patients, and you have a decrease in the quality of new patients, and it's not as effective. It's just like this. It's one or the other. And of course, the goal is to get most of your time and energy in educational sales and spend less money. And the worst thing you could do is nothing. Not do anything with educational sales. Don't do anything with advertising. That's the worst thing you could do. Now you're not getting anywhere. Okay. And so we want to pick these. Obviously, you don't want to do all these at once, but you want to go, okay, these are the systems we're going to do. And that's what you focus on, and that's what you train on, and that's what you implement. Okay. So the next one is we said what are the systems within 30 days? We're going spouse to day 5, kids day, new patient orientation, re-report, monthly and office promotion. In 5 days, we've checked off their circle of influence multiple times. That's how I'm getting new patients left and right. How many are you doing? How many times in 30 days are you getting a referral, or even if you're just advertising, how many are you doing? Well, if you got a new patient problem, chances are you're not doing any, or you're not very good at it. It's one or the other. These are the decisions you've got to make to determine your future and where you want to take your future, your quality of life. These are big decisions. Patient education is a big decision. New patient marketing, it's a big damn decision, because these are major influencers in the business. How to hire, how to pick, hire, and train staff, huge. I got doctors that know how to get new patients and keep them, and they can't grow their practice. They can't grow their practice because they're shitty at learning how to hire, train, and manage staff. Now you're severely limited. You're severely limited when you don't know how to do that. Those are major categories to growth. You got to put a lot of effort into these things to learn them and get them down and be good at them. That's why not everybody's just a huge success in business. Takes effort. Takes a lot of focused effort is what it takes to be damn good and make a lot of money. Okay, so and then you've got those are the 5 categories. We said the re-report, and then the new patient orientation, and then we just added in the personal injury attorney educational sales. We add that in. That's another, concerted effort. That takes a lot of focus, a lot of effort. So you're looking at about these are the big effort systems, but these are the things that make all the difference in your practice. Practice meaning your quality of life, your income, your quality of life. Patient education. Are you willing to look at yourself? Are you willing to find your faults? Are you willing to train on your faults? Are you willing to change your fears and inhibitions? New patient marketing. Are you willing to take the steps to start changing the quality of your life? Staffing, knowing how to hire, train, and manage staff. That's a huge, huge problem. That's the most overlooked problem with chiropractors. The most. The one chiropractors think everything about success is new patients. I need more new patients. I need more new patients. No. That's one. And the more of the other systems that you know, the less that becomes an issue. So you got patient education, patient retention, new patient educational sales, how to hire, train, manage staff, and personal injury attorney educational sales. Those are the big 4 right there. Now, when I say educational sales, I'm talking about stuff like how to do the spouse referral, the monthly in-office promotion, the how to give a presentation, whether it's the new patient orientation or it's how to do a new patient presentation to get even the cold call patients to get them. That's a skill level. Those are the big systems right there. Those take a lot of focus and effort and training is what they do. And most chiropractors aren't willing to do what it takes to be a black belt in those areas. The ones that are do really well. And those are the ones that have $1 million practices, $2 million practices, 2 practices, 3, because once you know it, it's rinse and repeat. Once you know those categories, patient retention, new patient, educational sales, personal injury attorney, educational sales, how to hire and train and manage that, game over. It's rinse and repeat now. You don't have to learn anything new. Now it's just rinse and repeat what you already know. Now you start leveraging your time, and you'll make way more money leveraging your time than being in your office treating patients. Okay. I made millions by not practicing. When I practice is when I made the least amount of money. But I never would have been able to leverage my time if I didn't learn those systems to practice. So it's a catch-22. You can't bypass it and go to leverage because then you don't own it. You don't know it. You got to own it, know it, and then leverage it. Okay. These are the big deals. These are the big issues. You're either going to face them or not face them. You're going to deal with them or not deal with them. You're going to either put them on the back burner or not. And then it's going to be a direct reflection on your life, your quality of life. That's what it is. Some of these things make dramatic differences. Patient education, you'll increase your business $100,000. You just get good at that. That's $100,000. $100,000 increase changes your lifestyle. That changes the house you live in. New patient educational sales, that'll change your lifestyle. Knowing how to get 5, 10, 15, 20 new patients a month, that'll absolutely. Now, if you don't know how to keep them, then it's not any good. You're losing those patients in 4, 5, 6 visits. Well, then it's worthless. It's worthless. But if you know how to keep them, now that becomes a major, major asset. And of course, we already know the power of the personal injury attorney educational sales. We got doctors increasing their businesses $500,000, $1 million a year, not $100,000, $500,000, a year. That's how fast that changes things. That takes a hell of a lot of effort to not only know it and then how to apply it and how to do it and then not be scared to do it. I still have doctors that are scared to talk to attorneys after they know it. They're still afraid. This is what it's about. So these are the marketing systems. And then there's the shitty cold call systems. So if you're going to do the cold call systems, well, which are the ones you would want to do first? Well, you would want to do Google pay-per-click first. Why? Because there's already a perceived need. Somebody's looking, it's already a patient. Okay, that's what you'd want to do first. What would you want to do second? Yelp advertising in Yelp for the reviews, because nobody's looking for a review in Yelp for a chiropractor for your location if there's not a 99% chance they're looking for a chiropractor. In other words, you have a high probability new patient. Yelp advertising for your location under chiropractor. Now, what can increase the quality of that? Follow-up. What do you need to follow up? You need their damn name and email. It's not just an ad. Call us. Here's, that's what significantly changes the game. Follow-up. Okay. What's the third one you'd want to do? Facebook pay-per-click. Why? Are people going to Facebook if they want a chiropractor? No. Well, why is it on there? Facebook is the only category that you can control all the categories of marketing: demographics, psychographics, geographics, USP, gateway, follow-up. Facebook's the only one. Once again, if you're not doing the right keywords and limiting, you're in trouble. If you're not following up, don't even do it, because people are not going to Facebook to look for an attorney. You don't go to Facebook to look for an optometrist or a chiropractor. That's not why people go to Facebook. So you have to capture them and you have to sell them. You cannot just do an ad. You do not want to do that. That significantly decreases your effectiveness. So these are all the things we're going to go into. So what I'd like you to do is look at them. All of them cost either money or skill. You're either going to spend time or money, or you're going to spend skill. It's going to be one or the other. Are you willing to do it? Are you willing to train it? If not, then you better look to the advertising systems. If you're a low confrontation person and you don't want to go into the referral business and get referrals, and do an in-office orientation, stuff like that, and you don't want to do personal injury attorneys, you better learn advertising. You better damn well get it down good. That's your only hope. That's your only hope for changing your income and the quality of your life. And of course, the goal is to shift. It's to shift and increase your knowledge and skill level in the educational sales, higher quality patients. That's now unlimited because now you're in control of it. I can get as many new patients as I want. Once I know educational sales, it's just up to me whether I want to do it. And the market's huge. It's whether I want to apply it or not. Do I want to do 2 presentations or 1? Do I want to do 3 or 1? It's up to me. How many new patients do I want? It's just totally up to me. And of course, I dump them into my well heeled and fashioned patient education. Once again, you're losing them in patient education. You got a big damn problem with marketing again. See, all these things start affecting each other. Everything starts with patient education. Everything. And it has to be over 50% prepay, or you will always have a new patient problem. Always. And if you get it up to 60, 65, or 70%, now you need very, very few new patients to maximize your time for money. Very, very little. That's easy. Get a few new patients. Then the next is increase the dollar, learn how to increase the dollar per visit. And there's different ways of doing that. One of the easiest ways is personal injury. But one of the other ways is just start raising your prices because you've maximized your exchange of time for money. So you just start slowly increasing your fees, watching your numbers, making sure your percentages stay the same before you hit a tipping point. There you go. That's how you start maximizing your exchange of time for money. Remember, that's the first level of making an income. Only 1% of millionaires become millionaires exchanging time for money. So there's a 99% chance you're never going to be a millionaire just doing that. 14% from leveraging money, 85% from leveraging time. Well, how do you do that and if you're a chiropractor? Well, you leverage time through staff, you leverage time through associate doctors, you leverage time through multiple offices. That's how you leverage time, okay? And of course, 70% of the millionaires become millionaires through leveraging real estate. So obviously the goal is to learn how to maximize your time for money, learn how to hire staff and keep them, that leverages time, learn how to hire associate doctors, train them and keep them, that leverages time, increase time and money. And even if you want to open a second or third office, there's easier scenarios. You can just sell offices. Once you know this, once you know all the systems, you can just sell 2 offices a year, have them train together, sell them for $200,000-$300,000 a piece. You just made $600,000 leveraging your time. That's how I made millions. I trained 7 doctors every 6 months, $350,000 a piece. Do the math. That's close to $5 million a year. It beats the hell out of seeing patients in my office. Make way more money. You'll make way more money once you know how to do it, when you learn how to leverage it. But you never can leverage it if you never learn how to do these things. And everybody tries to jump it. Everybody tries to half-ass it. Don't know how to do it, but they want to run to the associates. They want to do the personal injury. They don't know personal injury, but they want to do personal injury. They don't know how to hire trained associates, but they want to hire associates so they don't have to work. Everybody wants it, but they're not willing to put the time in to learn how to do it. And of course, that's when it doesn't work. It all just falls. Okay, it doesn't even work. It caves. So take these systems. So the next goal is to take these systems, make a definition of what you want. What's it going to be based on? Why do you want to do that? You know, obviously you're going to have way more effectiveness if there's a conviction or self-actualization reason. You just want to make more money because the Lamborghini, you're not going to do jack shit. That's the lowest form of why you will cut through obstacles. And you're going to have to cut through obstacles to be a black belt. You're going to have to put the effort in. You're going to have to fight. You're going to have to work on yourself. You're going to have to go through a hell of a lot of obstacles to make $1 million a year. It doesn't happen by accident. There better be a damn good reason behind you doing it. Some of the most common ones I see is people do it for their family. They don't want their family in a shitty neighborhood. They don't want to be renting an apartment. They don't want their kids in this shitty part of town going to public schools. That's some of the common reasons, you know, doctors want to make money. It's like, I want more for my family. It's not always about the best vacation and a new car. It's like, damn, I just want to be I want my own home, not rent. I want safe neighborhoods and I want good schools. I mean, to be honest with you, that's where it all starts. And then, you know, once you know how to do it, you're like, oh yeah, maybe I will get a nice Corvette or something, you know, or take a good vacation. That won't do it. It's about taking vacations in a nice car. You won't even get off the stool. You'll quit in no time. That's shit for motivation. So got to be a reason behind it, and then pick your categories, and that's what we'll go over next week. We'll go over the categories, and then we got to learn how to stair step, because the worst thing you could do is try to apply everything at once. That's the worst thing you could do. You want to get what I call bitch slapped? Go ahead and try to do it all at once. You'll get knocked back on your ass so damn fast. That's life. So do the system, the science that works. Understand yourself first. You might not be the person that's ready to do the in-office new patient orientation. Maybe you're afraid to do talks. Maybe you can't overcome that. Maybe you're not willing to overcome it. You can, but maybe you're not willing to. See? That's gonna push you to more bad marketing, spending more time and money see? It's inversely one or the other. Or you're willing, maybe you just need to do baby steps. You go, well, you know what? I'm willing to expand my paradigm, my security zone, my self-talk, and let's just go ahead and stair step it. And I'll give you a last example, and I'll conclude with this. When I taught my doctors how to do this, they were never allowed to. When I taught educational sales, and you've probably heard this before, they were not allowed to book new patients. There's no way in hell I was going to take a doctor and a new system that took a lot of skill. It has to be muscle memory. This cannot be conscious competence. Educational sales cannot be at the level of conscious incompetence or conscious competence. It's got to be at the level of unconscious competence, black belt, for it to work. Well, there's no way I was going to dump my doctors automatically in that for them to get smacked down, to get huge rejection. There's no way, because I know enough about human nature and training. So the first thing I did is I explained it all. That's the first thing I did. Then it's back to the training. Then we broke it into real small parts. Then they had the role play. So as an example, to establish need, as an example, you have to take the prospect through admit, consequences, personalization. There's 3 phases to doing that. Then we come to the offer of time and money. There's no way in hell I was going to push a doctor into doing all that. You're just going to get nothing but rejection and crush the doctor, crush their confidence level. So what did I do first? I explained it all first. I go, yeah, that makes sense. What was the next step I did? I go, we're only going to do the admit phase, and you're not allowed to do it in public. You're going to role play the admit phase amongst yourselves until it's unconscious competence. So they had to learn to ask the 3 questions of the admit phase with no negative feedback. That's how small this is exactly how small I broke down teaching marketing. Now, when they could do that, when they could ask the 3 questions without thinking, then I had them go out into the world, and I taught them how to stop people at the gas station or this or that. And I just, excuse me, I'm doing a research project. Do you mind if I ask you 3 questions? Blah, blah. It was just that simple. And then they would ask the 3 questions. They were not allowed to book the patient. When they got this person to admit they were having a chiropractic problem, back pain, they were not allowed to move forward. They were not allowed to move into consequences. They were not allowed they were not allowed to make an offer. They were not allowed to. I totally removed the big damn crush over the head, the negative. You have to have those removed, and you got to own everything before you can put yourself in that arena. You got to be a black belt before you go into the arena. In other words, getting new patients, trying to get a live new patient. So that's what I did first. Okay. Then I went to consequences. And I didn't even do the full consequences. I said, you're only allowed to ask 3 consequence questions, not 5, not 6. That's it. And then they had the role play amongst themselves. They were not allowed to go out. So they had muscle memory of asking the 3 admit questions and the 3 consequence questions before I even put them in front of somebody. This is how you control the hell out of your negative feedback and overcome obstacles and steadily increase your skill level and your knowledge, which is going to increase your effectiveness. These are exact steps I used all the way through. So before they were even allowed to do anything, they all had muscle memory and admit consequences, personalization, offer, time, and money. Then we applied it. That's how you have to do it. Think about that. When you're looking at your calendar, when you're looking at these categories, you've got to pick some of these categories. Go, which ones do I want to do and not do? That's going to give me these patients that I need at this patient retention, at this dollar per visit, to give me the quality of life that I want. That's where you're at right now.